Oh hey, they made a new Final Fantasy. From the outside looking in, Final Fantasy probably looks like the most insane franchise known to man. I mean, how many other game series are 16 games deep and still numbering them? Not to mention there's tons of spin-offs as well, some of which are peak fiction, and others have Crystal Chronicles in the title, and use the Game Boy link cables. Yeah, I've got 4 of them, and don't even get me started on the sequels. Final Fantasy XIII-2 is a title that could probably give someone an aneurysm. And Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII is probably enough to atomize some normie gamers out there. Don't even know what a 358/2 is. But not me. I'm built different. My first exposure to FF was through Kingdom Hearts. And old YouTube videos. Mickey Mouse was there. He made me feel unwell. 16 was announced, and my world was shaking. Gritty, grimy, slimy, ogre battling bitch-looking ass. A gripping dark fantasy narrative with revenge, betrayal, and fucking kaiju. Call me a summon slut because those creatures went horde. And it seemed like everyone had a lot of conflicting feelings about the new combat system. Look, they call it turn-based for a reason. Active time battle makes me actively find the time to appreciate a ballin' bitch-ass battle system. Sadly, some Zoomers just can't relate. Yet still, I consider myself an action game fiend. So when I found out that this was an action RPG, my Reggie was body, okay? Now, I could put on the fucking nerd glasses and explain to you the intricacies behind a character action game, RPG action combat game, real-time RPG, war but on a grid, Italian Senate simulator, Crystal Chronicles. Also, if you must know, 16 is the brainchild of Hiroshi Takai, Kazutoyo Maehito, Naoki Yoshida, and the rest of Creative Business Unit 3. They made Kino number 1, Kino number 2, Kino number 3, Kino number 4, Kino number 5, and the yet-to-be-released Kino number 6. Oh yeah, full spoilers going ahead, by the way. We start off with Clive, Jill, and Joshua. Joshua is struggling from chronic little guy disease, Jill is fearing the oncoming of war, and Clive is just really angsty. Oh boy. I mean, if I was Clive, I'd be pissed too. He's got an evil stepmom that's actually his real mom. He's got a good dad though. Well, had. During their campaign to Phoenix Gate, where Joshua's supposed to awaken his powers or something and go through a trial, everything goes to shit, they get invaded, the king fucking dies, Joshua turns into a fucking bird, and dies? Jill is nowhere to be seen, and Clive is sold into slavery. Fast forward 5 years later to where we defeat slavery. Our slavery, that is. But not everybody else's. Not yet. You know, I feel like we're missing out on a lot of context here. Slavery is erroneous, and Sid Thundercock is gonna help us eradicate it. Oh, but he died. Okay, for serious, Sid was a great character. He had great stage presence, he whipped us into shape, he got the whole plot going, but he wasn't actually here for that long. This portion of the game is all about him. He's teaching Clive, he's helping him through stuff, he's leading us through this journey, he introduces us to our entire newfound family, that of the Hideaway, and then he kinda checks out. He was integral in Clive accepting himself, no longer blaming himself for what happened to Joshua, accepting the truth that he might be the one to have caused his death, and accepting the dormant power of Ifrit that lays within him. Oh, but Joshua's right here. He's fine, actually. Questions? No? Okay, cool. So it's 5 years later, and Clive is now Sid, but in spirit, not in person. Like a weird Sid chimera thing. This fucking simp is mad at us for killing his e-girl. Yeah, we did that earlier. She was actually a very interesting character with a very fleshed out backstory. And Sid was there. But the way the game is paced, I kind of forgot. And after a goofy-ass turn of events, we gotta fight Titan. Clive cuts off his hands so he can no longer battle his purple-headed yogurt slinger. Actual term I found on Theosaurus. Oh, but we still have to fight him again. In one of the sickest boss battles I have ever seen. The lead-up was so sick. Finally letting the Icon combat system feel as robust as the main combat. Super stylish with combos and super moves. Then Titan gets even bigger, alternative music starts playing, and you have to run up his whole ass to rip him a new one. Whew. It was awesome. Dion's a chill bloke. Until our evil stepmom that was actually a real mom really becomes his evil stepmom. It's not confusing, keep up. The king is going fucking mad, but now he's fucking dead. So Dion gets really pissed and turns into a fucking dragon. So Clive and Joshua beat his ass with the power of brotherhood and manly combined, like it's an old anime or something. Seriously, they can just do that? Also, this fight was so sick as well. Okay, mom dead. New son is actually alien god parasite man. Barnabas is a big beanus bitchless bastard and he's off his fucking meds. Everything out of this guy's man is either the craziest shite you've ever heard or absolute doo-doo caca nonsense. He splits the Red Sea and kicks our shit in. But it's okay. We can handle this. We gotta regroup, reorient ourselves, lose our virginity because that's very important at this point. Maybe we just needed to assert our dominance, you know, spiritually rather than literally. He does have a sword that can cut the very soul in a mythological sense, so we gotta mythologically one-up him, right? We travel all the way back to the continent of Ash and ascend to the tower of the last king. This guy just keeps saying all kinds of goofy shit. He is completely belligerent at this point. Ultima this, Ultima that, Muthos, Logos, Ontos, Numa. Wait, no, that wrong series. Although, the boss fight is incredible. I have to admit, I was getting kind of tired of the game by now. But hey, it's badass, it's epic, it pushes you to your limits. Odin is a formidable foe, but Clive's basically the fucking avatar in this situation, so he's got all the powers, he's got all the guys. It is quite an interesting struggle from a thematic standpoint, but sadly this game could use a lot of work on the follow-through, so they're tiptoeing around a lot of themes of free will and determinism, and choosing one's own path in life, but to my taste, they're not delving enough into it, but hey, it's a good backdrop for an awesome fight. Ultima's a fucking gooner or something. I don't fucking know. Just look at his eyes. Gooner eyes, I tell you. He came from the star up there, Metia. Yeah, that was important, right? Clive and Joshua are taken to the Persuasion Station, but are frankly not impressed. Ultima is a god and technically made humanity, but he's fed up with all that, so to hell with them. He's been turning everyone into these little frost zombies called Akashic. I don't know if that's a reference to the Akashic Record. I also don't really even know what the Akashic Record is. We started our journey by setting out to end slavery and take down our oppressors, but now we have to take down the biggest oppressor of all, God. But the whole party doesn't show up for the final battle. Everyone just kind of checks out early. Although Dion is here, he's cool. I mean, I like him, but I don't know much about him. I wish I could play as him. Clive, Josh, and Dion are going absolutely berserk at this point and having a big old quick time event battle. Perfect opportunity to make this turn-based. It could be completely scripted, but if you set it up like a turn-based battle, it would be pretty cool. Anyways, Dion leaves, or dies, maybe. I don't really know. Joshua dies, but for real this time. Okay, it's a very well done scene. It's properly tragic, but like, it doesn't really work for me. You know, Joshua's death was the whole motivation for Clive's journey in the beginning of the game, and now you're just gonna like kill him again? But like, he's been alive this whole time. He's been alive for much longer than he was dead. So like, am I supposed to have forgotten that he died, quote, before? Like, that whole thread was kind of dropped. I wonder what he was doing all that time. Maybe they could have used some of those side quests to flesh out what he was doing all that time. I'm done with this gilded glib godkin goblin ass. Fucking kill him. Thankfully, the final battle is the absolute best clash in the game. It has like 4 phases. It's so intense. Your setups are really tested to their absolute limit, and you're pushed further than ever before. But then your friends like literally phone it in for the epic encouragement victory shoutouts. Shout out to Clive, he's my mate, he's gonna kill God. And then Clive, he's got this line.
The early fantasy here is yours, and we shall be its final witness.
He's got this punch. It just doesn't really feel earned, and it's a bit tonally incongruous. It's a little too goofy, you know? I mean, I like goofy, and honestly, this game could have used more goofy stuff, but not here. Not now. In general, I have no problem with name-dropping the series. Could I really be such a Doctor Who fan if I was? But like, here, in this moment, in this game, was it really the right place? Anyways, Clive fucking dies. I can never tell when anyone dies or not in this game. I'm not gonna lie. But we can presume he used the last of his power saving Joshua's life, something that shouldn't really be possible, but I mean, they have the Phoenix, and it's confusing. And everyone takes their final curtain call. Also, Gav becomes a father figure. Did I mention Gav? He's a bloke. Good guy, that Gav. Okay, I know I sound like I might hate this game, but it's actually very good. Sure, it falls short in many places, but the production value is off the charts. Huge battles, huge super moves, great characters that I wish just had a little bit more to them. And the combat is snasty. Devil May Cry inspired, bitchin' brawler boy ass bombos. So many options, so much utility, mixing and matching iconic powers, style switching, but only 3 at a time, and the progression system is rather limited. Okay, yeah, it does kind of lose its luster after 60 hours of playing. The writing is complex, inspired, layered. It builds a believable and evocative world. It builds up strong characters with godly powers and high seats among the kingdoms of the realm, but they, like, never interact with one another. They just all have one-on-ones with Clive. Except for Dion. He was our friend the whole time. He just went ape once. I'm seeing a lot of opportunities for interpersonal drama with the ensemble cast that's just not here. It leaves the whole thing feeling kind of boring and segmented, especially in the later half. I feel like the most we got was Sid and Benedicta, but they were out of the story really early on. And if you read into their story a little bit more, it becomes more questionable and frankly a little uncomfortable. I really thought the whole thing was going to be akin to the early political intrigue. Just felt like that was the kind of story they were going for. I'm just seeing a lot of missed potential. Although, the main cast is fantastic. Clive's got crazy himbo energy. He can be badass, but he can also be very heartfelt and sweet as well. He's been through hell, but he remains steadfast, and even later on can be a bit goofy. We see how his morals and values develop as he grows. His unwavering dedication to his friends and family is something I am always going to be able to appreciate. I really loved what they set up in the intro, but I think it should have been longer. There was a lot of story to tell there that maybe we didn't get enough of. And how the game is paced, I think its 60-hour runtime could be shifted around to the point where it didn't feel so bloated and dragging by the end. For example, Jill was great, but I feel like she loses relevance quickly. Like, yeah, she does a lot. She's a very intriguing character. We learn a lot about her. We even spend a lot of time with her, but she didn't really make that much of an impression because she doesn't really have huge moments in the story. The more I played, the longer the game got, the less I was down with Clive basically solving every problem all the time. And the ability to actually play as other members of the party would go a long way in getting the player more invested in every single character. This might even be a little bit of an abstract concept to understand, but even though characters like Jill, Joshua, and Gav are with you a lot of the time, the lack of any party actions or commands, like even something in Final Fantasy XV, the original version that is, make the game feel way too solo. The antagonists were kind of weak, weren't they? Benedicta was cool, Hugo was a dumb brute. He served his purpose. He had one of the worst scenes in the game, and he had one of the best scenes in the game. Barnabas was disappointing. He was really cool, but I was just expecting more from him. His lore's pretty cool, but you gotta read about it in the ATL. You're not gonna know it from just playing through the story. And Joshua. Oh boy, Joshua. He has so much potential. He's literally at the center of the inciting incident of the entire story. He is the catalyst for so much, and yet he still feels underused. He's got a whole ass game's worth of stuff he's doing in the background, and we see none of it. We even play as him at the very beginning of the game, but that's just it. It's just at the very beginning. This could have been a split narrative, with Clive and Joshua having different stories that intersect at certain points, and the pacing might even be better for it. But we got none of that. I'm glad we got to play as him, even if it was for like a 5-minute segment. But why tease me like that? I really loved everything of him that is here, but it's just too little spread across too long of a game. In the future, as time passes, I feel like I'll look back more fondly on this game than not, but I don't see myself replaying it, at least not anytime soon. The last couple of hours of this game really left me cold. This game has a fantastic combat system that seriously gets stale after 60 hours. The cast is wonderful and iconic, but I just wish they did more in the crux of the plot. The world is beautiful and extremely well thought out, but still somehow manages to feel too small. But I can't deny the fact that this is going to be someone's favorite Final Fantasy game. I mean, if I played this game back when I was like 14, it would have blown me away. It would have been my favorite piece of media ever made. I was 14 when Final Fantasy XV came out, and that's one of my favorite games of all time, as flawed as it is. Joshua wrote Final Fantasy, and it became an epic myth of breaking chains and shattering vicious cycles, all to inspire a future generation. And if that isn't what this whole ass series is about, I am not good enough at my job yet. Also, ding willies and titties. Good night. Specifically Clive's.